Alright, hello guys. So making a little video to help my friend Lightning, and there's two things I want to cover. The main idea of this video is that I'm just going to make an example program for a friend. So let's see, got to make a folder to work end. Call it test. Now I already have a folder named test somewhere. Project. There we go. And here we'll have everything that we're going to work on. And I apologize if this video is a bit long. There's two things I want to cover. One thing I want to cover is just using kind of the JFrame class. That's the main thing Lightning you're working on. So, going to make a new document. If you have Windows 7, Windows 8, or 10, and you don't see this text part, let me scene. Go to Control Panel, and you're going to want to go to All, Folders and Options. I think it was different on Windows XP, but I don't think that's too much of a concern. And when you open up the folder and options, you'll get this window. Go to View tab, and this one right here below the hidden files and folder, you're going to want to make sure that this does not have a check mark. If it does, you won't be able to edit that part, which you need to. So get rid of that. Okay. So that's just in case if that's an issue. Whoops. We're going to rename it. So first we're just going to make the main class, or like starter program. Start here. Let's call it that. And we cannot have spaces. And we're going to need to name it Java document, or Java type. Yeah, Java. Yes, I'm sure I know what I'm doing. Now, when it comes to making or editing Java files and all that, you can use whatever program you like. You can use Eclipse, NetBeans, what is it? TextPad 8 is what I think you were using, Lightning, and it just looks kind of sketchy and old. I'm not too sure. I haven't downloaded it myself, but I definitely recommend using Eclipse. That's my favorite, which is right there, Eclipse Java Mars. It's got IDEs mostly have nice tools. You could type it out in a text editor or something. Oh, let me get rid of this. Doop. And for sake of simplicity, I'm just going to use Notepad++, very nice. And of course, I have a custom color theme so that my coding looks nice. As you see, I just typed something, this went red, which means this file has been edited, but I haven't saved it yet. But enough of that, let's get to actually programming something. So I'll just make a regular default starting program. So I'll skip ahead to when I finish this. This should be pretty simple. Okie dokie, so we have a basic little program. It's just empty. You make the class according to the name of the file. I have the one and only void main, or public static void main function that starts the program, of course. And I'm not going to be really teaching Java. I'm just going to be, like I said, giving an example of how to use the JFrame class. And I'm going to try and do it both the ways you're using it as well as methods I recommend. So with that said, we could do everything in this program. However, that would get very messy, as I've said before online. So it's best to minimize this and have everything work in classes that organize everything. But for now, let's do a sample program. Let's see. Now I'm going to purposely make some mistakes and a lot of the times make accidental mistakes. So I'm going to make, just to show some compiler errors. So let's import the JavaX swing and make this capital because I think that screws with it. And I'm not going to put a semicolon there just to show an error. And we're going to make a simple hello world. Let's see. As you can see with Notepad++, it's auto-completing some of my words if it recognizes what I'm typing. Like you can see inside what classes inside the swing library I could use, such as a option or JOption pane can do that. But or just stick with the simple system.out. Semicolon there. And so now that's a basic little program. So we're going to want to save it, otherwise it doesn't actually get written to that. Now I've just did a little simple beginning part, but there's two major things I wanted to cover. Not only did I want to cover the JFrames, but with Notepad++, and I'm not sure with that text pad you're using, they don't really have a function to compile the program with. So that's kind of problematic. So the way you have to do it is, or if you use Eclipse or NetBeans, they can automatically use the compiler just by clicking the compile button. However, I have a few problems with things like that. And the only real problem is whenever you update your Java, it's just going to give you some problems, as you have to make sure you update that with the program. Not too hard, but I find I'm going to be keeping it simple, so I'm going to use Notepad++, as well as talking about well, right now I'm going to show you how to compile your Java using the command console. So if you haven't already, get the newest Java version. I recommend what you Google is the SDK version, because it gives you when you go to the development kit, it gives you a lot more options, whereas if you're just trying to do regular Java update, it's just install now, and it's kind of annoying because it's going to automatically select some things and sometimes it mistakes it. I have a really hard time getting the proper version. So I always do the SDK version, and I want this version, then 92, not then 91. I have Windows 64, so I would of course go with this. Yes. So I select the accepting that was here. Save. Run it. Oop. Ease. Now I already have this version installed, so I don't know if it's just going to give me an error or not. But the reason you want to go for the SDK version is because at the end it's going to ask if you want to install the Java runtime that matches this, which is usually what your computer uses. Where did that update thing go? Well, I guess oh, there it is. Boop. Next. Yes, I would like all of the things. Okay, it finished installing the SDK, but as it says there, and usually after this part, if you don't have the runtime environment for update 92 or 8v92, then it's going to ask if you want to install that. You're definitely going to say yes, but I already have it because I've already installed or updated my Java. And so there's the runtime, there's the SDK, and yeah. And the main thing the SDK has that you want is that guy right there, the compiler, as well as some Java docs and all that. The runtime is everything else. But we're done with that. Close. Let's get rid of that. Yes. So, if I figured out how to do YouTube right, I hopefully put in a link that allowed you to skip that if you already did that. And so that's just updating, which I'm pretty sure you can find other things on YouTube, blah, blah, blah. So that isn't truly necessary. But the reason I'm bringing that up is because with Notepad++ or if you're just using regular text editors, you're going to want to have to compile through the command prompt, like I said earlier. So, if you go to the command prompt, let me open up this, Windows. Just to find command prompt, if you don't know already, command prompt search, there it is. And let's turn that off. There that is. And let's get rid of, no, let's not. So we have this. Let's change the properties of your command prompt to make sure 8500 on the buffer, just because it's that's usual and that's pretty nice. You're also going to want quick edit mode, just because it makes it easy to copy and paste. With the checkbox, if you right click, it automatically pastes whatever you're going to you wanted to paste. And now to check to see what if Java is running correctly, you can do a Java space minus version. So as you see, I have the version that I want, or the latest version, which this should work. When it installs it, it should do it automatically. Now, the one thing that probably won't work for you right out of the box is Java C. The C stands for compiler, which is what you want to use when you go to make your programs. And do version. Java blah 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 blah. So it's giving me an error. Oh no, it's because it's giving me an error because I can't spell worth a grain of salt. So that was the version, they match. So anything that's made with this compiler should work with this version of Java. Now for you probably got an error that says Java C doesn't exist or something, or it doesn't recognize it. That's because you have to tell the computer where the compiler is at. So to do that, let me move with this. So go to your control panel, and go to all, and you're going to want to go down to system. There's different ways to go in the system, but this is the easiest. Go to advanced system settings. Let me pull this up. And you want to go to environment variables. This one variable, you're going to have path, and it's actually multiple variables. So if you go to edit, so this is just some stuff that shows up. This one just is because I swap out my hard drive with my laptop every now and then. But if we keep moving, you're going to see it's going to stop right at the whatever dist letter it is. Then there's going to be a semicolon. I apologize if the pixels are kind of hard to see, but that is indeed a semicolon right there. So what that does is it's like semicolons in your program where it separates one command from another. So this is talking about Wi-Fi, which is just from something from my laptop, as I mentioned. And the other thing I'm going to want to put in there is the root to your JDK's bin folder. As you see, I have mine right here, where if I go to my Windows, where are you? So there's my JDK, open it up, open the bin. If I click this, here's all here's the directory line. Just need to copy and paste that in there. So if I didn't have it, this is what it was before then. Just Control V, semicolon, and you have successfully added your compiler to your environment variables. Click OK, click OK, get rid of that. And the reason you want to do this is so you can type in Java-C to compile a program or a file, and it'll do that for you. And like I said, if you had a different, IDE like Eclipse or NetBeans, you would have to go into the settings and just select whatever JDK you have. Yeah, if you want to feel old school or like a hacker, use the command prompt. Plus it keeps things simple. So we did that. So now what we want to do is we want to move our directory. So there's our directory copy. So right now we're in my usual folder. Use the command dir, short for directory, and it'll list out everything that's in that directory as well as tell you the other directories, such as, where is it? There's, documents. If you want to change directory, you can go up with 2 periods. See, I went from me to just up there. If I want to go down, I could list something like then. There we go. And now I'm back in my folder. If you want to go to a specific place, you can go change directory, and to paste, just right click. And remember, we did that because of this setting right here. If you just do Control V, you're going to get this -V, which is not what you want, project. So now we're in our little folder. So if we do dir, let me get my bottle out of the way so I can see what I'm looking at. There's a little folder we made. Start here.java, start here.java. So now let's compile this. And remember, I put in this little error here, or I put in 2 errors. I think capital swing is bad, as well as no semicolon. So if we do Java, well, that's not Java, Java-C, and then the file name, start here. Remember with the class name, because it has to be one whole word or use the underscore, we can't use spaces in the file names. So that's what this is here for, and that's why we see it here. And put in the .java part. Oh, I was about to say, oh, that's weird, it didn't give me any errors, but I looked here, and remember, with this red, that means that we edited this, but we didn't save. So let's save or save all. So now that it's blue, if we try again, now to get the same line without typing it over again, I just press the up arrow, and pressing up brings up the most recent line. If I go up again, I go back to the one before that, up again, and if I go down, it's like going down the list of my commands I've used. So now that I'm back to the compiling command, I'll press enter. Okay, and now we got our first error. So let's see, start here, So that's the file error, semicolon expected and it points to the end of the line, 1 error. So let's semicolon. Now, remember, we edited this. It's going to go red, which means we haven't saved our changes. So if I type this again, I'm still going to get the error. So save it. Up again. Okay, now we get a new error. And the package javax.swing does not exist. And that's because this is capital. Let's make it lowercase. Save. Up, try again. And now we got no errors. So let's see what happens if we try to run it. To try and run it, as you've noticed, we now have a new startHere.class, which is what comes out of the compiler. To run that, we do java space start here. I'm not too sure if capital matters here. And as you can see, it printed out in the command line, hello world. Ta-da! Now, we have this swing library in here, but we're not really using it, so let's use it. And my favorite thing to use it is the J option pane. Now, as I mentioned, I'm not going to be teaching any Java, so I'm not going to be explaining what's going on here. Hello world. I'm just going to type this and then test program. Capital formation message. And it looks like I have text wrapping going on. Let me expand this. Okay, now remember to save. Going to recompile. Okay, so I cannot find symbol. Oh wait, there we go. J option pane dot information message. There we go, because it's a sub variable of the J option pane class. Save. Where am I going? There we go. Null string int error find symbol blah 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 blah. Symbol method. So it should be giving an integer. Not too sure. Okay, so I figured out what I did wrong. I just forgot that I need to use the methods. So show message dialog. And that should do it. Save, compile, and no errors. So now let's run it. Hello world. And what popped up on my other window was this guy. So test program, hello world, okay. And the information message kind of does that thing right there. Null just means it's going to make its own little window. So that's just a simple hello world. Now let's kind of apply that to the JFrame stuff. So what you were working on Lightning was making a JFrame. And when you make a JFrame, you give it a label, kind of like how that thing had test program. Test window. Let's do that. And we're going to need to make a JFrame object. JFrame. Window equals new JFrame. So now that'll make it, but that won't have it show up. Let's see if I can find Lightning. Where's your old code? JFrame, blah, 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 blah. So I'm going to copy all of this just to save time. Oh, there. And paste. Now, everything's still inside the main method. Not recommended. It gets very messy. It's get hard to figure out the flow of information, but let's do it anyways for sake of science. Let's compile. Oh, we gotta load in some other things. There we go. Copy. paste. Okay, save, compile. I wonder if there's a way to clear this. I haven't researched that. Oh, there we go. Let's change this to frame, just so everything works. Save. There we go. There, no errors. Let's run it. Hello world. There comes that. This goes okay. And as soon as I finish clicking that, then it makes the new test window, because this kind of pauses the whole program. And then it goes to this, yada yada yada, set visible to true. Now it's running its own little program or loop of code that does this. And then we get out of there. So yeah, that's just an example of running the program and doing stuff. But definitely not my recommended way. And as we saw, so this is your old code, Lightning. I think I edited it. Yeah, I did. So what you're kind of doing here is you're making a class that does all the handling for the JFrame. However, it's just making another JFrame class inside of it and managing it. It's not I wouldn't recommend it for two reasons. One is you can't really edit the actions of the frame from here unless you find a way to overwrite it somehow, which I'm not too familiar with. As well as if you're just making a JFrame class inside of a random class that doesn't really do anything other than this part, the whole code thing, it's kind of like a redundant class. So let me show you how I would at least use it. So let's close this. So back to our main project folder. Go over there. Over there. So let's make a new class. Let's say, make a new text document. Whoops. Close. Click on it. Wait. Click. Doop. And let's rename it to window.java. Yes, I know what I'm doing. And now let's open up that. And so now let's make it a class. So I'll type it out and fast forward to that. Okie dokie, so I finished this little thing and I got it double checked here that it's working. As you see, it compiled correctly once. So let me explain this with respect to your old drawing board class. So here you make a JFrame object named frame, which I'm guessing you probably copied from StackFlow because that's usually where I see that. But set your close operation, and then you make a new label. You give it, you don't give it anything. You set the whole size of the label to be huge, and then or at least you make a giant empty label, and then you add that to the content pane, which I'm guessing at this point you don't know too much about JFrames and stuff and all these things like content pane, the pack, what it does. But I made a window class that does something similar. But as you see, it's got a few things different. So what I did was I extend JFrame. So what that means is this thing inherited some of the properties of a JFrame, such that set default close operation. If you go back here, you set the frame, the JFrame object you named frame, to do that. Well here, because window is now a sub JFrame class or inherits from JFrame, that this will act like a JFrame. except you can customize it more. And so one thing you can customize, you can give it the title, which where is it? Is this? Oh, that's right, I edited it. But yours didn't really have a title. I used this code as just something old that I used for reference. But so when you do super title, it's telling the higher up version of itself, the JFrame class, to construct itself using the title variable. The title variable comes in the parameter of you building the constructor of window. I have it so you can give it a title and give it the width and height. And so this just gives it the little title up here. Set default close operation, like I said, you had frame dot set default close operation. Well, now we don't need to do that dot part because all of these functions are now part of the window function. Oops, let's undo that. And it's because we made it inherit all the classes and variables from subframe by using this extends JFrame. So I also made this public variable called contents, which basically is the thing that says it points to the object that holds all the information of what's inside your window. It's a container class, and as you can see, that's exactly what a getContentPane returns. If you see getContentPane in your drawing class, there it is. It's saying this line right here is basically, it's adding this empty label you made that you made so and so big, and you're adding that label to the center of your program, and you're adding that to the content pane. And to get that, you needed to use the frame.contentPane because it's sub part of the frame. But here, because window extends JFrames, we don't need to do that frame dot blah blah blah. We can just say a content pane whenever we want to talk about it. But say if another program wants to add to Windows, to our Windows program or class, if they want to access it, they would have to do window.getContentPane. And just to make it easy, we'll just make it contents. So they just need to type in windows.contents. So if they want to add something, it's contents.add blah 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 blah. So I haven't really tested to see if this program works. I'm just guessing, but you need an object and then you need a something. And I don't think this works because it's going to add itself to itself. But because of this, because this points to the same thing that this content pane thing, this is the same thing as getContentPane.add blah blah blah. Pack just fits it to the right size, which would be whatever is inside of it, which I guess technically is nothing. And then it ends with the set visible. And then you're going to notice this part and this part I haven't talked about, but I'll get to it. I'm just going to see if my program actually works. So it compiled correctly. Let's see if it runs. Java. Oh yeah, that's right. What is it? Window. We're going to have to actually implement our Windows program. So let's get rid of this. Let's just make a what is it? Public static, and we need to call it static just because it's inside this. It's going to be talked about inside the static method of main. I don't really like working with statics too much, but public static window. And because these two are in the same folder, we do not need to import them at all. Window, static window, test. Oh geez, I can't spell. Test window. We're then going to make a test window. Test window equal new. And if you remember correctly, we can give it a title, a width, and a height. So let's give it a test window as the title, and the width, copy, paste. What was the other one? I'm guessing this, I don't know if this is just the size of your monitor or not. Seems like a weird resolution. Okay, and because this is the constructor, and in the constructor it automatically does the set visible to true, it's going to automatically open up the window, as well as it's not just going to close the program right after this. So let's save this, let's compile start. There we go. It worked, so let's run it. Okie dokie, so I got it done. It does a little bit extra now, and it does some more useful stuff. And this should hopefully give you a bit of a starting point for figuring out where you want to go next and how you want to program this. So here's what I did. I made two new classes, drawing board and buttons. I'm not really using drawing board, so this can go away. Boop. And save. I made buttons, and that's about it. So what I just did was I wanted to add buttons to the program, and I did, as well as they make them do something. I wonder though. Copy. Window. I'm gonna try something. Paste. Test. Test. And test. Let's see if that works. I just want to check to see if you can add directly to the frame. You can, or at least didn't give me an error. But it did screw up my thing. So I'm going to comment that out. Save. Now I'm going to recompile Windows. Start. What is going on? It was working. Oh yeah, that's right. Editor. Start here. Close the program. Pile. Oh, forgot a semicolon. Doop. Let's build a save. Let's bring this back. Save that. Now let's recompile everything. Okay, now let's run it. Waiting. There it is. All right, so it works great. So what's going on? So we have our window. We gave it the title test window. So we see here, goes to the constructor, goes to the, there's the constructor as title. We send that to the super, or to the constructor for the JFrame to tell it to give it the title of test window. We set it to close on X. We give it the default dimension that we prefer it. If I can, yep, I can adjust this. Set prefer size, and then we do content. We get a variable for contents so that it's easy to access the contents of the test window. And so that's just a simple build. And usually what I would do is I wouldn't be building a window. I might be using a program for global variables, or a class for global variables, just because it's easier to access things without this static thing in the way. And once everything's kind of made, then we have it do whatever it needs to do to set itself up, like build. So here, I have it organized so it makes the label that says hi, and I do not have it set to preferred size, so it doesn't get it just adapts to whatever it needs to. So there's the little hi. Then I have something called button panel, which I'll get to. Then I have a random button called test that I have right down there. And then you add everything. And you also, of course, want to set everything to the right dimensions, or however you want to do it. I'm just lazy and I'm using the border layout, west, center, and south. So center, of course, is just going to fill up as much space as possible in the center. The label, which is the west, is going to be on the left side, squished as much as it can be squished over here. South is going to be basically like hi, where it's squished as much as possible. And the only thing that's inside of this area is the button. So it's down there. But what's going on here? Well, we have what's called what I'm using is a button panel. And so one thing that's really great with that works well with frames is panels, which are basically frames inside of a frame, except it's a panel. And so yeah, it's a panel. You can have multiple panels, panels for buttons, panels for buttons and pictures, panels for the program to draw on, such as if you want to load a file, you could have a little menu down here, click there, have it draw what you want. And yeah. Oh, I clicked start. This doesn't do that much in the way of programming. So why would you want to do this? Well, because you want to do functionality. So you have a sub panel that goes inside your frame. You can build it such as it builds itself here, and when it's constructed, it makes the two buttons start and clear. It adds an action listener, which means you listen for when it gets when something happens. You set the layout such as it's a grid. It's 4 by 1, so it's stretched this way because only one horizontally, or yeah. But you have 4 stacked on each other, so you see it only takes up this. If I change this to 3, you should see it change to be bigger buttons. And let's change this to 3, so it'll be like weird, like it'll be in this corner, maybe center, I'm not too sure. Let's close that, let's compile this. Buttons. Okay, and it worked as expected. It's now a column of 3, and technically 3, but there's no other buttons, so they just kind of go away. But we also have set the background of the panel to red, and then we add the buttons on top of that, the start button and the clear button. And then we have another class. We could technically make this its own folder. However, if you're probably going to have multiple panels and subpanels that do different things, And they probably might be using multiple classes that say button listener, just because it's an easy class name to give all your buttons. And making one big button listener is possible, but it can get messy. So sometimes what a lot of people do is they make a class inside of the panel class that they're using, so that they can just tailor the individual button classes into the functions that they need. But with that said, let's look at the button class, or button listener class. So earlier I mentioned how you can implement an action listener. You can do this with a JFrame, so you can have menus. We don't have menus, so as you see, I got rid of that, cleaned this up, and let's close all these other things. Close, 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 and I'm not really using this. I must have changed something because that's red for some reason. Oh, did I not save it when I edit it? Let me check again. Close. Buttons. Compile and run. Nope, still the same. I don't know what I changed, but something went red. But so we have an implement action listener, which is an interface, and that means we have to have all the functions that action listener has, and we have to override them to personalize the function. So here we're personalizing what happens when an action is performed, and we're also going to we have an action event as a parameter, because that's going to come in. And one way to figure out what's going on is to get the command, or like the name of what's giving us the action. And what's giving us the action is these buttons, and they have names or titles, something that identifies them. So if we check to see if that is equal to their name, such as start clear, we can use that to figure out which button we're pressing. We can also, have a mouse listener and make a mouse-based class, so it can like do things when you hover over it, like give it menus. These are things you can probably search on your own to figure out to give your program more power, but as you see, I'm doing that JOption pane thing again. So if I click start, it's going to do this. Give us a little pop-up message that says another window, and it's going to have start what? All right. Click has OK. You can't do anything until you exit this window. Clear does something similar, but it just says clear. I wonder if let's see, change this to warning. I think that'll work. Or where's my W? Okay, let's compile that. Where'd that program go? Right, can I Control C or something? Control C, maybe here. Okay, and that pressing Control C in the command prompt allows you to close the program in case you have it like doing an infinite loop, because this won't automatically stop that if it does. So compile just fine. If we run it and click start, it should now give us a warning message instead. Yep, yes it does. There's that little warning sign. Click clear. There's clear. So we've got that. Test doesn't do anything unless we implement a button listener, which we would have to do in here. So I'm just going to copy this, copy window, paste, and we're going to replace this with test. Wonder what do I want it to do? Simple.system.out would work. Okay, so now if we close this, save Windows, recompile Windows, and then we don't have a. One important thing is we need to import these event objects. Let's import that. Paste. Save. Let's recompile. Okay, it compiled successfully. Run it. So now if I click test, make sure to look here because it should say test. It is not saying test. Okay. Oh, I didn't read it here. So I add this class, but nothing happened. Why? Because I did not add a button listener to my button. So if we go to test, add, what is it? Do I just add a button? Add action listener. Okay, so we can add an action listener. And the one we want to add is our, do we make a new button listener? Let's see. Yep, we're going to make a new button listener. And do we need parentheses? Yep. Okay. Oops. And that should work. Let's compile. And something's off. Add action listener. Oh, I'm missing an E. Spelling. It's going to be the death of you if you're not good at it. There, now it compiled correctly. And let's see if it's going to work now. There it is, testing. Now it shows up. But I think you're more interested in Lightning and drawing in your program is what you want to do. Not drawing with the mouse, but with the program. So I'm going to work up some code and see if I can't have it do that when I make it when I click start. Okie dokie, so it's been a while. I've reprogrammed this a few times and I added a lot more in. And as you see, we now have 5 classes total. And this is, I think, the final version, because what's going on in this one is I made a lot of major changes, but I'm changing it to a thing that I think could be very helpful to you, Lightning specifically. And what it does is it draws. Let me just show you it in action. So let's start the program. I will explain why it's all different and all that, but let's do a test. Click start. Takes a while because I'm recording a bunch of things at once. Click OK. Yay, draw something. Clear. Okay. You didn't see the window, it was on my other screen down here. But yeah, as you saw, it can draw something. It showed somewhat of a rectangle, and the test button still works. It still has that tiny little hi and whatnot. So let me explain everything. So I have a window class, that's the window that everything's in. I have a little button JPanel. I have another JPanel that's for drawing in. And I have this program data that handles all the data in the program. Now let me explain why. So I only have 3 lines of coding inside my main method, which is nice and clean. It tells you where to go to find things, that it does something. It's going to make a global variable, it's going to build, and then it's going to run. And then that's the whole program. And the reason I do it this way is because of the static variable, or the static thing right here. The reason I do that is because I want a global place where all of my global variables go to that's not static, or at least the variables aren't static. Global can be static, of course, but I don't want the variables inside of it to be static. They could be, however, the reason I don't do that And the reason I make this variable or this program data class is so that other parts of the program can access these global classes and variables, such as the window itself, the drawing panel and all that, and be able to talk to them, give them commands, information, without needing to have static methods to do so. Because if you're referencing a static variable from a non-static method, it just won't happen. It's not allowed. That's not how Java works. So this, because most of my variables aren't static and may be reused in different situations, I wanted it this way. So I have two global variables. I have the window itself and the drawing board. When the main method starts, we initialize our global variable. So we go to the constructor of program data. Program data initializes the two global variables, test window and the drawing board, which they do their things. I modified them a bit. So I got rid of the set of the preferred size setting, just gave it a title, gave it a close operation, and it initializes its contents variable. Do I need that? I'll leave that. And then so the test window gets initialized. Then we initialize the drawing board, which is the new class, the main class you are probably going to be playing in. I'll explain that later. But it sets up a background color, a preferred size, and then it also has this painting variable that holds all the information of what the current painting looks like. And I prefer it this way. You can do it other ways, but I prefer it this way because this way you can back up your paintings and be able to undo things and repaint things. This is my preferred method, and seems to be some of the more preferred method across the internet when it comes to at least Java. And so yeah, that's just basically initialize them. Then the main method tells the global variable to build everything. So that just kind of passes on to the test window. And it builds itself, so it adds that little small hi label, the label that says hi. It adds the button panels, or it initializes it, and it initializes the label, the button panel, the test button, as well as adds an action listener to the test button, which I believe I explained earlier, and then adds everything. And it also adds the drawing canvas thing. So here's what I was talking about being able to access variables and global variables. So we have the start here method. Instead of just going to, like, say, add drawing board, which is a class, we want to add the specific object that we're using in our program. So we just go to our main class, starting class, and we go to its variable, the global variable that holds, well, the global data. So we go to, because it's a program data class, we just go in here and we go to its global variables, which is DB, short for drawing board. And we want this specific variable, or the specific object that we made when we first initialized it. So that's why we're asking for a DB and not drawing board. So window. That's why we go to the main class. It's a global variable, and then the variable that's inside of global. And we add that and we make it center. We then use pack, so everything gets packed as small as possible. And inside of our drawing board, it has its own preferred size, while everything else is kind of limited by the size of the buttons. No. So yeah, and then as you saw, it goes back to the main program, which goes to run. The global passes on the run function to the test window, and the test just kind of packs itself again and sets itself visible, and then it goes into its automatic loop. So I don't need to explain this part. And so I think the only thing I really need to explain at this point, other than me finishing the program data, is the drawing board. So as I mentioned, we're just going to be using painting. I'm not really explaining too much why or what's going on. But we have three methods. We have clear, we have test, and we have refresh. Refresh just, well, it refreshes the whole thing. Why do I have this here? Let me try something. Save. Compile. Drawing board. Now, if you compile one of them, it usually compiles them all. I don't know, sometimes the order, it does it in a weird order. So I'm testing the program. Let's see if the clear works. Clearing also works, great. So let me explain what's going on. So we make a graphics 2D and have it point to the graphics that is the painting object, or the buffered image. And get graphics is like the vector format. We just get a new color that's same as the background and just fill the whole thing with a filled rectangle. And then we tell it to refresh the screen. So the way it refreshes is it gets the graphics, it makes a graphics component. It tells the, what is it, the superior or the superior, yeah, the parent JPanel class to repaint, and then it paints on top of that the painting that we have, or yeah, the painting, which just before then we painted, if we use clear, we just filled it with a rectangle, or with here it has no, we never set it a background, so as you see, as a result, it just makes a black background because it's technically transparent, but it doesn't. Oh, no, it doesn't. Weird. I don't even know what I'm talking about anymore. But instead of drawing a filled rectangle, we're just drawing a line. So we just have draw rectangle, set some dimensions, and let me set that to 100. There we go. Now it should be a, yeah, it's going to be a square. So save. Let's okay. And what did I just change? Oh yeah, start what? Right. There we go. Now we got a square inside of there. So what's going on exactly when I press this button? So if we go back to a button panel, to a button listener class, we see that when I press start, it's going to get that little message, and then it's going to tell our canvas to do the test program. And remember, to get to our canvas, we have to call for that specific object that we already created. So the way to do that is just go into the global variable object and then ask for its DB object. And then we tell it the function test, or the method. And if we look inside of test, it generates the graphics and has it pointing, or have it equal to the graphics that is our original painting object, the buffered image painting. We set the color we want to paint with red, or if you want to do your own color, you use a new color object. This is just a preset, this is a custom one. And like I said before, it went black, and that's because the image it's painting with is transparent, but it doesn't put the transparency on top of anything because it's redoing the painting. I don't know, it's kind of hard to explain, but it's not really like a transparent image that they're putting on. It's actually a vector when we're repainting. And so what happens is when we replace everything, it's just we have this basic background that's technically transparent or technically doesn't exist, but as a result it doesn't, and we're painting this painting over. We're not painting over it like a fresh coat of paint, but we're just making a new painting. And when we're making a new painting with no existing background, then instead of it showing up as transparent, it just shows up as black. So that's something to consider. And what's nice with using buffered images is you don't have to paint them until the very end. So say you could have one painting that's like a heat version or heat vision, and another painting that's a regular vision, and they don't really show up. But say you want to blend them in a way, well, you can show that final blending thing here. That's kind of the magic you can do with these buffered images. But yeah, so it does draw the rectangle, only the line. So we just use the function draw rectangle of the graphics 2D object. Then we tell it to refresh. It does the refreshing, and then repaints it, draws the image of our painting, and here we get. And same thing with clear, except it calls for the clear function. So yeah, so we go to that specific object, and the reason I do it this way is in case we have more than one canvas, so we can do a specific canvas as well as we don't want to just tell this function to do something because it's void. It's not going to return anything. It has to do an operation on the object it is, and for that reason we have to make sure we're calling something that's pre-made, that's not null. So where's the buttons? That's why we're asking for DB and not just using the drawing board class, because it is created. It is not null. So yeah, clear test. And this should be something you can use and modify with to get it to do the things you want, drawing lines, shape, triangles, and different things. So yeah, I'll try to edit this video as compressed as possible, because I've started about 3 hours ago recording this right there, if you saw the clock at the beginning. So yeah, but yeah, I'll edit this after dinner, because dinner's gonna be soon. Yeah. Alright, I hope this helped you, and good luck.